but effective.
Welcome to another episode of Boring but Effective. We have Angus Woods with us today. He is the founder and CEO of Advisor Ratings. Welcome, Angus.
Thank you, David. Good to be here. I've heard I've got some follow-up to do from some of the other colleagues that you've had on here. So I'm a little bit daunted by the fact that I've got some hard tasks to follow, or some hard taskmasters to follow.
Oh, we certainly have had some big names come through, Boring but Effective. I've been blessed with the support, but it's great to have you on, and you're an industry expert. So, first question: who is and what does Advisor Ratings actually do?
Yeah, so Advisor Ratings it's about 12 years old now. It started off as a trip advisor for financial advisors. So consumers go onto the website, advisorratings.com.au, and you can rate your financial advisors, or advisors can go on there and ask clients to rate them. So they might use them as a bit of a KPI scorecard. But ultimately, it is a way for consumers to connect with financial advisors. And I'd like to think it is highly rated and respected financial advisors. We don't take any commissions. There's no fees for consumers and advisors. We're not in that lead gen space where it's pay to play. We've got 9,000 advisors on the platform now. So that's ostensibly what Advisor Ratings is to probably most advisors and most consumers when you go onto the website and search us. The other thing we do, and we just bought this business a couple of years ago, is a fee comparison solution. So you can create portfolios. So advisors can create portfolios, and that product is called ProductRex. So just think of it for the advisors listening to this service, it is Wealth Solver inside X Plan, so a fee comparison service. And I think we've now got up to 4,000 separately managed accounts that are now hosted on the ProductRex service. So yeah, it's been growing quite, and that's got about 6,000 users, which is close to half the industry.
Yeah, wow. That's
Mm.
uh, that's fantastic. Now, the advisor rating side, it is terrific. It's a great little hub there for advisors to be able to fix their profile up. And so if anyone is searching in the area, they can come through and there's reviews and that sort of stuff on there. It's great. And Product Rex, I can vouch for that. That is absolutely fantastic and provides fantastic reports at the end when you've done it. So you know straight away whether the client's needs are going to be met and what the fees are and how it's all going to match up together. So I think it's great.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We I was talking about on the former, because I knew you were going to ask me obviously about that one particular question. That's why I'm on here. But I think we put through about 20,000 new clients, basically onboarded through Advisor Ratings last year. We're also the backbone of, if you go to Australian Super or Colonial First State or BT, so we do their find an advisor services as well. So the data that you see on those websites is just consistent across the industry, right? So you're getting, and we spend a lot of time cleaning data. Um, I guess the major competitor would be the free service, ours is a free service, but is the government's website, which is on
Yep.
ASIC,
Yep.
moneysmart.gov.au. And yeah, feel free to go on there. That's another service for clients and to go on and have a look to see if your advisor's registered. So we do use that service to feed the Advisor Ratings website. What I would say is, this is a call out to ASIC, is the data is very, very, very dirty. So we spend a lot of time making sure that it's clean. So you're getting, the right details on your advisor when you do look that up,
Yep.
and they're pinpointed right through to the practice that that they're talking about. So, but I can't begrudge the fact that we do use the Money Smart website to help feed the Advisor Ratings website. So it is a good service, but the data can be a lot cleaner, which is what
Yeah.
we do.
No, I understand there was some queries around the data there when the phase year exam was happening, and that was a nervous time for a number of people, and tricky for you by the sound of things with how the data was coming through. But that
Yeah, well. Well, and thankfully, we can talk about this later, but thankfully, AI is playing a little bit more of a role around that, especially that deterministic matching that we can do.
Yeah.
And I will try and not use mathematical terms, but that's my background is in maths and stats and accounting. Not too dissimilar to you, probably, David. But I'll try and not use those statistical terms to try and make it sound like I went to university.
No, it sounds like you got a lot more high level internet type stuff and experience than I have. I'm good with talking to people and doing the financial planning. You're great with well, similar boring stuff like we do behind the scenes, but by July, you're very effective when it spits out advisor ratings in.
We're not that I'm not that exciting to talk to in a pub. I like to talk more about the what's going on the screen at the football. The moment I start to talk about accounting, data, AI, I tend to lose a few friends, and I find I'm sitting there by myself. But it's funny. I actually come from on that note around the complexity side, and that's why I like the title of what you've got there, boring but effective, because people do want simplicity. You don't want to be talked down to, right? You don't want to be made to seem like you're not the smartest person in the room. You want them to make feel like they're the smartest person in the room, right? So I think I think that's the role that, especially the role that advisors play, is how do you relate and not worry about. Obviously, you've got your experts around the technical side, and the advisors do know their planning and their advice and their skills in that area. But really, the biggest skill is that relatability. And I was, my family comes from that medical side, so they've got no business acumen. And if they hear this, they probably will actually, but they've got no business acumen whatsoever. So I try and not talk about that sort of side. Talking about but money and money issues and talking about money and money relationships. Very, very difficult conversations for humans to have. So it's a special skill for an advisor and or an accountant to be able to sit down there and get the right answers from the people in front of them.
Yeah.
So, and kudos to you. That's not my skill. Um,
Yeah,
mm,
yeah. Doctors are really good at well, especially anaesthetists. They do their best work when people are asleep. Um,
exactly. I had a
so
couple of anesthetists in our family. So
there you go. I mean,
like, I
they can
like,
say,
I like to tease them about that as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
they're doing their job when people go to sleep. So not now at dinner.
exactly.
Wait till you get in theatre.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah.
Um, yeah, so take us through. So advisor ratings that you've got silver, gold, platinum. How do you rank the advisors there, and how does that actually work, and what does that actually provide the end day consumer? How they would go in and look at their advisor, and
Yeah,
how
so
does that sort of match people up?
so the rating techniques that we look at on the front end for consumers is really just sort of a simplistic um and I use the term simplistic properly in terms of just allowing consumers to get a steer as to how advisors how many reviews are coming through for that advisors, how relevant they are. So the more reviews that an advisor gets from their clients, the satisfaction scores go up, and the recency of the reviews also help. Um, what we also do then is have a look at elements like qualifications. So, how educated an advisor is, a lot of that's publicly available as well. So, have they got, and on the Australian qualifications framework, you've got everything from rated from a PhD, which is rated 10, right down to, say, a diploma 3 or 4. Advisors now need to all be degree qualified. I guess when I say all advisors, any advisor coming through now needs to be degree qualified or have some base level of skills. So you'll find, I think it's 96% of advisors have a degree qualification at a minimum, which is a AQF, Australian Qualifications Framework level 7. And then you've got a master's, which is level 8. And then you've got as a as I mentioned, you go from there, level 9, level 10. So whether it's a doctorate or not. The other areas we look at in terms of getting that gold, platinum, silver, bronze is tenure in the industry. As we know, the more you're exposed to in the industry, you get to see more complexity, you get to see more issues. So the longer that the longer that you're an advisor, um, that 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 goes up. And also, there is value. We've done some correlation and causation analysis here, depending on what associations you're a membership of. So whether it's the FAAA, even we do look at some of the accounting
Mhm.
associations, that being CAN, so the Chartered Accountants Australia of New Zealand, CPA. We also look at areas like the CFA Society. So if you're a chartered financial analyst, so they've all got their ratings in terms of determining uh, the level of, and we look at that, an association needs to have certain level of metrics. Do they have a code of ethics in place? Do they have a board that sort of monitors education levels, that advocates for advice? Those are the areas that we look for. So in terms of that platinum, gold, silver, bronze. So that's to help, the basically consumers just get a bit of an understanding. I'm not saying, an advisor needs to have a doctorate, right? Or an advisor needs to have 100 reviews, or an advisor needs to definitely be a member of that association. It's a steer, it's a guide,
Yep.
is what we're trying to provide.
That's great. No, I'm on there. I really like the website. It looks great, and I can
What are
probably
you, David? I should have actually asked. Are you where are you
I'm
seated in the
I'm
mix?
I'm I'm a gold.
Oh, good.
So yeah, I was bronze for ages, but I'm not sure whether it's I'm doing good things or tenure or what it is. But I'm now a gold advisor. So appreciate the rating from you guys. That's really cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Hey, what do you see as the main challenges in the growth areas? We were talking about ProductRex before.
Yeah.
What's the future look like for advisor ratings, and if we can get your thoughts on the broader financial planning industry?
I think the biggest one that's facing the industry full stop is regulation, and that's a broad umbrella. Um, a few things there. Um, we also, and I don't want to dwell on this one, but we had because it's been talked about ad nauseum, is the Master Shield First Guardian issues with rogue. I'd put rogue advisors and rogue asset managers, right? So, or products. So I believe that, stems from a systemic issue of where focus lies around regulation, right? We tend to sort of use blunt instruments on areas that aren't solving the real problem. Again, I can go on my high horse about this one, but what's happened here? All of a sudden, you've got, you know, we don't have new entrants coming through the industry. We've got now the biggest generational wealth transfer that's coming out, with all the money coming out of super into the hands of, 20, 30, 40-year olds that have been handed inheritances. Um, you're seeing an avalanche of SMSFs being set up, which is some of the problem that stemmed from here. The definition of sophisticated investor tests, and what does that role look like? So I could talk about I could talk about a confluence of challenges, which I think is often, uh, and what's happening is regulation is probably quashing some of the creativity to solve where problems can be solved, and even recently, right? The CGT changes,
Yeah.
um, where, the whole idea was to try and stop generational wealth disparity through increasing house prices, and then you go and get CGT lumped onto, uh, you know, individual share purchases and and the like, and then having to rebalance and re-index those elements where effective tax rates can actually be far greater
Mm.
uh, than the 30%, being the flat 30% being proposed, say, out of a family trust. So it's sometimes, we talked about this before we actually had this call, right? Where it's sometimes regulation is actually enacted in isolation to try and stop a particular issue without thinking of the ramifications coming through down the pipeline. And now with retirement, $3-4 trillion coming into out of super funds over the next 20 years, or sorry, going into super funds and wealth transfer happening, I just broadly think there's been some decisions that have been made that have not thought about what are the individual types of people that are going to really be affected here, as opposed to trying to stop one thing from happening.
Yeah, it's you don't envy their position. It's a difficult job, and they're never going to make everyone happy. But
No,
sometimes,
yeah, we'll talk about the ref on the field before,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So if you're always complaining about the ref on the field, there's something wrong. But there has been some certain things that I believe have been done well in terms of at least trying to professionalize the industry over the last decade and a half.
yeah,
Started with the Ripoll inquiry, and then lots of inquiries thereafter. But I think it's a lot cleaner and a lot more trusted industry for consumers to go into. So don't get me wrong. I think if a client now wants to find an advisor today,
yeah,
you you're going to get a good advisor generally.
yeah,
Um, uh, you know, 20 years ago, could I have said that? Could we have both said that, David? I don't know if we could, frankly, with all the conflicts that were out there. But I just keep coming back to sometimes, regulation can go too far. So is there a middle ground that needs to come back to? Yeah.
yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there a little bit with the 20 years ago. I think there was definitely some really good product salespeople around 20 years
Mm.
ago. Whether that transpired to good advice or not, that's the proof will be in the pudding. I don't think all of those people were disadvantaged, but certainly there was some that may not have been in as good a position as they could have been with less product and more advice in that space. But I
Yes.
think I think we've moved more to a more independent advisor type scenario. Industry funds coming through and that sort of thing's a bit different, but anyway, smarter people than me will
Yeah,
make
no,
make that legislation, my friend.
yeah, I think we've got a role to play in terms of adjusting and changing it, and hopefully, it comes out in the wash eventually, because issues do arise, so you need to rectify them. The one thing that again, I speak to a lot of advisors. When I started this business 12, 13 years ago, the conversations I had back then with advisors very different today. I enjoy sitting down with an advisor today who's talking about his clients, right? And not and a good, don't get me wrong, the P&Ls have improved, advice is going well, in terms of, you need advisors to make money, you need practices to make money to actually give good independent advice back to it. But the conversations have more revolve around the client's needs and the complexity and
Yep.
retirement and super, as opposed to hitting KPIs or commission levels,
Yeah.
which is, that's been just word on the streets. Those sorts of things are a massive guide as to what's happening.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. No, that's terrific. Hey, thanks so much for the chat, Angus.
no, been good, been great.
It's been great to get to know you and the advisor rating story and product Rex and your thoughts on the industry. But now we move into the fun bit.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
second part here. Hey, what's your favorite food?
Well, I'd have to put it down to seafood.
Yeah,
So seafood at Christmas, definitely. I don't want to sound too hoity-toity, but um, when I say seafood, I do think about oysters and Balmain bugs and the smoked salmon. Don't get me wrong, being a Sydney sider and the heat, um, and the fish and chips
Mhm.
down the beach is fantastic. But yeah, that's what I think about when I think about my favorite food. Um,
Fantastic. Oh,
and I
sound.
like I'm married to a Maltese woman who's probably more on the Mediterranean food
Right.
side. So I try and move it more towards sort of traditional seafood. But yeah,
I'm sure there's some garlic finds their way into the sauces
it
to go with it.
it it does. It does.
Now, last question. Um,
But
if you could invite anyone living or deceased in the history of the universe, they're coming around to your place for some Balmain bugs and oysters and whatever other seafood you can find. Who does Angus Woods invite?
I want to use that time to check out and not be serious or think. And suddenly, so I'm not going to say like um an Elon Musk or anything like that. For me, it'd be someone like a Stephen Fry,
Ah,
or a Ricky Gervais,
yeah,
right? Where um I like Ricky Gervais's quite hard-hitting humor. Stephen Fry's also got that element of um wisdom that feels like they're a decent person. You can have the cerebral chat, but also be quite, I'd like to think it would be quite a fun, entertaining, humorous evening.
well,
So that would be me. I'd rather spend 3, 4 hours over dinner laughing uh, with someone like that who has maybe met some really, really famous people and has an unfiltered opinion on them,
yeah,
as opposed to talking about AI and the stars and existentialism, and all of those sorts of things. I can read about all that sort of stuff online or through YouTube.
fantastic. I think that's a couple of great picks. Yeah, they're both highly intelligent fellas, and you can have that highbrow stuff, but they're also at the end of the day, they're both little children too, with
Yeah,
their sense of
exactly.
humor, and that'd be so much fun.
We've always got that little child in us. I'd like to think we always do.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Hey, great chatting with you, Angus. Thanks so much for coming on.
no worries. No,
And
thank you for inviting me, David. And really looking forward to seeing how boring but effective goes. But that's what advice is. So fantastic. So yeah, or if you ever need a guest again in a couple of years' time when this has got, 5 million viewers, let me know.
if I get 5 million viewers, I'll definitely hit you up.
Beautiful.
Enjoy you,
Sounds like
mate.
a
Thank
plan.
you.
Cheers.
See ya.
Boring.
but effective.